So good afternoon everyone. My name is Maurya Hanspal, and in this session we're gonna talk about finance and accounting. And like we would be talking about the differences between the two. That what exactly is the difference between finance and accounting? So both of them are very important, but there is some difference between the two. And also further, we would also be talking about like some of the career aspects in finance and accounting. Yeah. Finance versus accounting. See, first of all, there is no fight between finance and accounting. Each of the career is separate and each of the career has its own merits. Okay, and there is no demerit of these careers. And I personally like respect like both of these careers. Okay, but you should know the difference between the two because a large number of people say who want to make their career in finance, they say that they have that they have no knowledge on accounting and they cannot make a career in finance. And only a person who has a great knowledge, widely diversified, advanced knowledge in accounting can only build their career in finance. It's not the thing. Okay. So firstly, we'll try to understand what exactly do we mean by finance and accounting. We'll try to like differentiate between the two. I will talk about the useful aspects of the two. Okay. So firstly, talking about accounting. So what exactly is accounting? So when we talk about accounting, accounting is a task of just recording, basically like recording your summarizing the transactions, like comprehending the transactions, and finally like making them accountable. Like for example, if you want to store a data like related to some numbers, your first task would be to gather that data, then record that data, then summarize that data, comprehend that data, and verify that data. And at the end, you have to like communicate to your employees, your clients, or your managers. So that is the process of accounting. Accounting and finance, they both work with numbers, but the thing is, accounting is concerned more of a work which is core into the field of like preparations of financial statements. Like when we talk about financial statements, we have three major types of financial statements. One is your profit and loss statement, which is also called the income statement. And then you have the balance sheet, which is also called the position statement. And then you have the cash flow statement. So the preparation of the task of these statements, it lies in the hands of an accounting. So a person like who wants to become a CA, like or a chartered accountant, that person must have a clear understanding of the conceptual clarities of accounting. That's it. Until and unless you do not have strong basics, concepts of accounting, you cannot become a CA. So that is the basic essence because CA is the person who at the end or at a later point of time becomes the auditor of the company, and he has to prepare these statements and verify these statements, which a person who is only like inclined towards finance that cannot do. That person ultimately cannot do who is inclined only towards finance. So both of them like get a very competitive pay, and ऐसा नहीं है कि the person who is in accounting is getting a better pay and a person who is in finance is getting a lower pay. ठीक है, like both of the jobs are quite respectable job, but the main difference is in an accounting job, it is more of a chartered accountant or a CA job. The person has to maintain the transaction, record the transactions, and summarize the transactions, comprehend the transactions, verify the transactions, and communicate the transactions to the end user. तो उसका मैथ स्ट्रांग होना चाहिए, and he should be like able to have all the principles of accounting उसको पता होना चाहिए, like bit any principle. We talk about the historical cost concept, the materiality concept, the conservative concept, the revenue recognition concept. All these concepts like must be clear to him. Okay, so this is all like the person must know about this. सो अकाउंटिंग इज मोर ऑफ मतलब कि क्लरिकल नहीं बोलूंगा, बट इट इज मोर ऑफ अ बुक कीपिंग इन नेचर कि आप अपने रिकॉर्ड्स को कैसे मेंटेन कर रहे हो, उनको सिस्टमैटिक कैसे रख रहे हो, समराइज कैसे कर रहे हो, एंड अल्टीमेटली हाउ यू आर लाइक कॉम्प्रीहेंडिंग द रिजल्ट्स और कम्युनिकेटिंग द रिजल्ट्स टू द एंड यूजर, एंड दैट इज द टास्क ऑफ एन अकाउंटिंग. But when we come to finance, people say like मतलब कि we do not want to make a career in finance because we have like no knowledge or like very kind of a less knowledge on accounting. And I've personally interacted with a large number of people in BBA or like in MBA who say that we do not want to pursue a career in finance. Though we have an interest in finance, we learn like it feels good to understand the stock markets and talk about investment banking. But the thing is, हमें accounting इतनी strong नहीं. I do not agree with this fact. Anyway, accounting अगर strong नहीं है तो इसका मतलब ये नहीं है you cannot go for finance. I completely agree that when you do the accounting and where you have to put in the adjustments, like making a balance sheet, PLN, and cash flow statement is simple for everyone. But the problem comes when you have to make adjustments. The very problem is when you have to make adjustments. And when you have to make adjustments, it creates a problem in accounting. Because आप statements बना लोगे, P&L, balance sheet वो सब बना लोगे. But जब नीचे वो दिया होता है कि note, या दिया होता है like you have to do certain adjustments. So that creates a problem for you. Right? So that problems you have to do. So accounting में जो issue है, जो बच्चों को बहुत आता है, students को बहुत आता है, that is mainly for the purpose of how to manage the adjustments. So keep that part on the side of the accounting only. Why are you like confusing that part with finance? Because if you become a financial analyst and if you pursue a career in finance, the one thing that you have to do while making a career in finance is you have to analyze these statements. You do not have to prepare these statements, you have to analyze these statements. And you do not have to manually prepare these statements or do the adjustments. And that's a part of accounting, and a CA would do it, or the auditor of the company will like verify all this. But the main task in finance, you have to analyze these statements, interpret these statements, and communicate it to the people. Okay, so there is a thin line difference between the two. In finance, you like need not prepare these statements or need not kind of like verify these statements. You just have to learn to analyze these statements, interpret these statements, read these statements, and communicate to audience. That is all you need to know when you talk about finance. Okay, so ये चीजें पता होनी चाहिए. So if you want to make a career in finance, it is not mandatory that you need to have knowledge on accounting. एक basic knowledge is sufficient. You need not be like so much advanced in accounting, or you need not be like so much free flow or like versatile with the concepts of accounting notes to accounts. Okay, तो ये चीजें creates a difference, and you can create a career in finance if you have basic knowledge on accounting. Basic principles पता होना चाहिए. P&L क्या होता है, profit and loss statement basically, like which you also call as an income statement. ये सब चीजें क्या होती हैं, तो these things you should know. And until and unless you do not know these things, nothing can happen. You have to know these things, you have to analyze these things. Okay, so make note of these things when you are preparing these statements. Okay, now the second thing in accounting and finance, see, like a lot of careers are there into the field of finance. I'm not specifically stressing on finance jobs. I'm just telling you a career. A large number of financial services companies, they hire people who are like investment bankers, wealth managers, right? Or even like services provider or a consulting job. So these things jobs which you people can go for in the career of finance. Okay, and a minimal knowledge of accounting would be required. So do not panic that if you do not know accounting or have not no kind of knowledge about accounting, you cannot do it. You still can do it. Okay, so to summarize, accounting is a task of like recording, like summarizing, bookkeeping, and like verifying and communicating the final results to the end audience. Whereas finance is something which involves a basic touch of accounting, but the work is something different. That the accountant has a task of like preparing the financial statements, your P&L, your profit and loss statement, your balance sheet, cash flow statement. And the finance guy has the task to analyze these statements and communicate the results to the final audience. That is the main task that they focus on. Okay. So that was the main difference between the two. And that is all for the session for today. So that people who want to build a career in finance, they do not feel offended or like feel demotivated. कि हमको like accounting तो आती नहीं. Okay, that was all for today. I'll see you in the next session.